I'd like to call the meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor Internal District to order at 4:22 p.m. Machines are open for roll call. All 9 commissioners are present. Next item.
To potential litigation regarding a Nguyen lawsuit pursuant to LRS 4217-810, Attorney Steve Dwyer, Dwyer and Cambry, and Suffering Commissioner Schultz.
You know what? We're going to wait for executive session.
Wait.
Well, no, we can't. No, because of this. All right, I offer. Ask for a second.
Second.
Offered by myself, second by Mr. Newsome. Any comments from the audience? Administration? Table? Machines are open.
Take 5 minutes.
Passes 9-0. We'll enter executive session at 4:23 p.m. We'll return from executive session at 4:29 p.m. No binding or final action was taken in executive session. Next item, please.
3, status report by the Executive Port Director.
Mr. Jellison.
Okay, can we queue up the the executive director report, please?
Got it.
Okay.
It's right here.
Okay, so good evening, and thank you guys for this opportunity to present for the port today. We start off with a financial report update. Are there any questions on the financials?
Just tell us what was spent. I see it. Those were the changes in the fund balance related to ordinances that have been passed by the council from prior meetings. About 797.
Any other questions? We're good?
Good.
Okay. Next slide. So update on the ferries and the rescue boats. The Pride is still in the yards, Thomas E. Shipyard. She should be coming out within the next couple of weeks. We ran into an issue with the replacement ferry, replacement muffler. So what we've done in the meantime is we've welded the damaged muffler, and they're testing all of the systems. And between the port as well as the shipyard, we're in communications with the vendor that's actually manufacturing the muffler. So as soon as we get it, we'll be able to swap it out, get the Coast Guard involved in their inspections and sea trials. So we're anticipating having the Pride back sometime early July. The Point LaHashe ferry is actually back in service here in Point LaHashe. I think Mr. Brock will be very happy that the Point LaHashe ferry is here in Point LaHashe, and our intentions is to leave that vessel here in Point LaHashe. So we're excited to be able to do that. And the only way we're able to do that is we have the emergency repairs completed on the Point LaHashe ferry landing. The Belle Chase 2, I think everybody remember, we talked about her Coast Guard certificate expired this week, so she is headed to Thomas E. Shipyard now. And our new build ferry is estimated to be completed around about December 2028. The conceptual design is in place. We will be forwarding some design layouts to the commission within the next week to give you an opportunity to see what that layout is going to look like. Not quite as big as the Pride, but much bigger than the Point LaHashe. And it will be a diesel electric, so more importantly, she will be very efficient. The next slide, I'd just like to talk about the revenue bond that we're going to vote on today. There is a $35 million revenue bond that was approved, and that revenue bond is for three very specific items. And that is to purchase land in Piano Keys 2. It is cash for the water booster station because we have a $18 million grant from the Port Priority Fund from DOTD, but we only have $9 million of that actually authorized to date, and we've spent about $6.3 million. So, but by the end of 2025, we are going to finish that project. So we are going to need to either spend our cash, and what we've done here is plan to use the revenue bond cash to draw that down to pay. And then that will be reimbursed over the next 2 years as we get the additional funding approval from DOTD. And then the last item on there is the renovation of the building. We will talk about the roof, but the roof is being replaced now. But that building is in very bad condition. And we have plans to completely renovate it. And Ms. Bergeron is going to talk about that when she talks about our projects. But I'd just like to also say that the revenue bond that we're talking about is only for these three items, right? And today's vote only authorizes us to draw those funds down. And the funding date, would be July the 10th. And then I want to be very clear that the port will come back to the Port Commission through the normal process to come back and request the funds for each individual specific projects for Port Commission approval, which includes a majority vote. So by approving us to draw these funds down now does not, create the condition where the port can just start spending money. We will be very specific. These funds will only be tied to these three projects. So I also wanted to just put another slide in front of you on the port's land. So as of today, the port owns over 2,800 acres. And I provided you with a graph to show you, what that encompasses. So as you could see, 50% of that is parcel 3. Parcel 2 is 32%, and parcel 1 is 18%. And you can see the ownership of Piano Keys 2 that we've actually already started with. On the right side, this is Piano Keys 2, where we've started to purchase land. We obviously have 2 properties that we'll be closing on today. So that owned will jump up. We anticipate, based on where we're at in negotiations, by the end of July into August, we should be at about 47% negotiated owned. So I just wanted to make sure that I provided that clarity on where we are with our land. So this is a little hard to see on the screen, but the point is we have 3 buckets that we're working in right now, and the first one is the actual land ownership. And as of right now, we're on a path to complete land ownership with rezoning by the first quarter of 2026. And then all of our planning and engineering of all of our projects that are related to the marine terminal, we're looking at quarter 2, 2027. And then all of the construction, essentially, we're looking at quarter 3, 2029. We're going to talk about those projects individually by our Director of Projects here shortly. And at this point, I'd like to turn the floor over to our Director of Projects.
Hey, Commissioners. So first, we're just going to start off with the Port Ferry landing projects and everything of that nature and relating to Point LaHash. So whenever it comes to the Point LaHash emergency repair, we should have the final completion being able to be awarded by the end of July. Now, with that project is going to come two spin-off projects. They're gonna be completely separate from this project. One is gonna be barge electrical upgrades because they're desperately needed, not only for the fact that it is outdated, but also it caused safety concerns. We're also going to do a replacement, full replacement aprons as well. If we're planning on using this as a redundancy to the new ferry landing that we're doing, then the aprons need to be replaced. They're outdated, they're not gonna last. And that, once again, will cause another safety concern. And that, we're looking for this to last pretty much just as long as this new ferry landing as well. Now, the Point LaHash landing replacement, all of this ends up going and tying into that 18.6 million grant. The notice to proceed was issued. We had a kickoff meeting last week. I'm happy to say that it is moving. You're not just seeing it anymore. It is moving. This project is moving forward. So continuing on with our, Crystal.
Other way. Keep going. One more.
There we go. So the critical infrastructure updates, I have 4 very hot topics whenever it comes to the projects in general. First one is the 11-mile rail extension. In order to ensure the port be able to grow, we need to add this additional 11 miles. We're progressing very well with this project. We're about 30% design. We're tracking down and nailing the right alignment. Whenever it goes through all of our different stakeholders, I'm in constant communication with them, working with the engineers, working with rail design, everybody, to make sure that we have our stakeholders taken care of and that their voice is heard. For the Peters Road Rail Bypass, we're about 30% design with that. We're waiting to have a traffic study and rail velocity study, hoping to have that completed by the end of this year, just for that specific project. We are aware that we're gonna have to have above grade crossings to where we don't have any traffic jams, basically, for lack of better words. So with that, we are looking at above grade crossings already in this project at 4th Street as well as LA 23. For the Peters Road Bridge, happy to say that this is not just a myth. The Peters Road Bridge is going to happen. I had a kickoff meeting in Baton Rouge just yesterday discussing this project. The engineers who were on the project previously, they are back on it. They're telling us that it's going to take them 18 months to do preliminary design, but I have faith in these engineers that it might possibly happen quicker than that. And that's for your preliminary engineering. So whenever I say that, that's just your starting base. Then from there, you go to your detailed engineering. Once we hit our detailed engineering, then from that point, you're going into construction. So yeah, it's not going to be tomorrow, but within the next 3 years, you're going to see a bridge being actually built. And I think that that's the hard thing for the citizens to grasp, but it's happening. For the Navy business case analysis, that's looking at the Navy base that we already have and basically being able to use commercial cargo as well as military cargo. Being able to merge the gaps, keep this base open. And what we are currently in right now is the admin building renovation project. It is loud in my office every single day. They are right above my head right now. So we are removing the roof and we're replacing the roof itself. And we are looking at that being finished by mid-August. And that's taken into account like rain days. So that's why we're looking at that. We're being realistic with it. The generator emergency bypass, that order has been placed for that part. Once we get it, we're gonna have that installed as well. The architectures are working on a full detailed design whenever it comes to the HVAC system and full ventilation redone within our building itself. And we had to update slightly where we were doing parking restrictions just around the sheriff's office itself. So I will get that map out to y'all first thing tomorrow morning. So y'all have that email from me. And it's just making sure that we keep in mind and of the other businesses around us as in the sheriff's office and regions, and don't want to take up too much of their prime parking as well.
Thank you, Ms. Bergeron, and if we can actually post that map on our social media, I think that'll be important, and I'd just like to ask the commissioners as well as the public and the parish government, as you're coming to the building, just be very cautious with your parking. I mean, we've had some debris to fall in different areas, and so we have things taped off, but public safety is important to us, so just use caution as you come to the building. With that, we conclude the executive director report. Thank you, and I'm open to your questions.
Thank you. Any comments from the audience? Of course. State your name and address, please.
No, I ain't getting no check. Clarence Brock, 156 Enos Campbell Lane. I saw some PVC pipe water lines setting up from Punahhash all the way to Belchase, I guess. That's the water line that we been talking about.
That is correct. That is a 20-inch water line that's
20 inch.
going from Alliance all the way down to Port Sulphur Water Plant.
Yeah, I saw him yesterday when I went across there, Tuesday when I went across. And also, the Belchase too, I thought it went down because of damage from logs in the river, but it went down for inspection.
Yeah, her Coast Guard certificate expired this week. But I mean, I think you're correct. I mean, it's over 60 years old, and it's taken a beating in the High River, so it was just time to get into the yards.
So a lot of people are wondering when we gonna get another ferry back in Belchase.
Yeah, so as of right now, we're looking at sometime in July. So as I mentioned in my report, the holdup right now with the Pride coming back is we determined that the muffler was cracked several months ago. So it has been ordered. It is in manufacturing, and it should have been in a week ago, but it didn't. That did not make it, into the shipyard. So what we've done in the meantime is we've welded the damage, and so we're testing all of the system to make sure that when the muffler comes in, that it's just a matter of Coast Guard inspection, sea trials, and then make it back. So sometime in July. It's hard for us to say what the day will be because it really just depends on when that new muffler makes it in. And that's a safety issue where we really don't want to be running a ferry with a muffler system that has exhaust leaks because, that becomes a problem for the crew.
Right. All right. So we're looking somewhere in July or maybe to the end of July before we get a ferry in Belchase.
That's correct, and we really request, your patience. Please, watch our social media. We are putting regular updates, and I feel like throwing a party when the Pride comes back. It's been a long time coming, and we're very excited. And it's got our new port colors on it and everything, so it is going to be a sight to see when she makes it back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the audience? Mr. Jursich.
Yes, I got a couple things. One of them is, this is what we really need to work on, sticking to deadlines for all this paperwork and stuff, these changes
Yes.
and everything. We have a deadline of Friday. I missed the deadline at the last meeting, so I didn't introduce it till this meeting. I'm gonna start, if I start seeing things pop up on Wednesday, I'm gonna ask for them to wait to the next meeting. I know some things we have to move on, but y'all gotta do a better job of getting this stuff together for us, because we got stuff today we really didn't look over,
Correct. I
And it's,
agree.
it-
I want to
it
add to
makes
that.
And I accept
difficult.
full accountability for it.
Can I add really quick
Yeah,
to this?
yeah, go ahead.
What is the status of the legal assistant that,
That
replacing?
position has been filled. I think that person is starting the week after next.
Okay, we'll talk offline, but I want that person almost immediately sit down with Kim and Crystal
We
to
already-
go through all that.
Already have all of that lined up, and that's been a challenge, but we're not going to make that excuse. And I've already had that conversation in writing to my staff today. So I take full responsibility for it, Commissioner
Oh,
Jersey.
okay, because I know, it just throws everything, And
Yes.
look, when I get something today that I didn't get a chance to read, I'm a fool who want to pass it, you know?
Understand.
So, and, I mean, I don't like that because, you know, we want to be sure that we understand it, so. Another thing, I'm stacking these things up. I mean, they pretty, they nice, but I don't know who really needs one. I mean, we got it on here, you can email.
For the record, she needs one.
Oh, okay, well, we can make one. Okay. I'm just saying, you know, because I got these stacking up.
I don't need one either because I read it on the screen as we.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all right. I mean, but I'm just saying, I know it don't cost much to make, but, you know, I don't want to throw money away either. So, but that's what I basically have. We got to get a better job of getting stuff out to us in time so we can understand it.
I totally concur.
What's the status of the audit?
At this point, we're working through the audit. I'll let Ms. Glapion.
We actually, at the request of our auditor, we did file an extension this week due to, as this is our first single audit, she's doing a lot more detailed testing, and we were getting some of that information from our grant administrator. So we have filed that request. We have not received the determination back from the legislative auditor approving that deadline extension, but that is where we are at this time.
Okay, send me the letter to the LLA that we use because I'll be surprised if they approve it. They've been cracking down a lot lately, unless if you have a extraordinary circumstance. Okay, so what is our timeline? Well, how many days did we request an extension for it?
For 30 days.
Okay. I guess until we get the findings, I'm not going to make any more comments. Ms. McCarty?
I have a question for the two accountants. Since we received federal grants, isn't that a requirement for the audit to be a single audit?
No. It's only when you're in excess of $750,000, and actually, it's going up next, actually, for years ending December 31st, up to $1 million. So it's only when we spend more than $750,000 in a given year.
Right?
Correct, which is why we have one this year, but we never had
What's
one.
gonna happen?
Yes, because I warned them last year, after last year's audit, that you will have a single audit next year. You better not have findings in federal programs.
Okay.
That was before you got here, Ms. Shannon, but that was, yes, we did know we were going to have it.
Okay, thank you.
No other comments? Next item, please.
4, bids and advertisements. There are none. 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
We have the following. A resolution to adopt a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, EPA, Louisiana Gateway Port, and Plaquemines Parish Government for the purpose of economic development collaboration, and authorizing Port Executive Director Charles D. Tillotson to enter into a CEA, Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, DBA Louisiana Gateway Port, and Plaquemines Parish Government for the purposes of economic development collaboration and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to enter into discussions with various port tenants to activate the FTZ sites within the boundaries of FTZ 300 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2025 blank budget of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to appropriate Water Resources Reform and Development Act funding and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution for the establishment of 2 bank accounts with Regions Bank for the issuance of sale of revenue bond series 2025, Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And the final one is an ordinance to amend the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District manpower structure and operating expenditure budget for the classified position of Ferry Captain 3, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you. Only deferral we have is 6B, as in Bravo, which was reintroduced today. Why withdraw it? So only thing is 6 Bravo. Everybody understand? Let's clear off our agenda. All right, next item, please.
6, ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage. 6C, an ordinance authorizing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to issue task order number 7 to Infinity Engineering Consultants LLC for engineering and design services associated with the rail velocity study simulation for the 11-mile rail extension and Peters Road Rail bypass projects in connection with the container terminal project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Schultz. This has changes.
We
Go
have
ahead.
changes on lines 6, 25, and 43. We're changing the task order number to number 8.
With that, I offer with changes. Ask for a second. Second. Second by Commissioner Newsom. Any comments from the audience?
Wait, 25 and 43?
I have
Yours-
6, I have
y'all
6
may be
and 35 and 48.
Okay. Okay.
Everybody good? All right, any comments from the audience? Mr. Brooks, state your name and address.
Clarence Brock, 156 Ennis Campbell. I just want to know, is this railroad going to be like the one I saw in Branson, Missouri a week ago? 200 cars?
No. That is part of what this is going to actually do, is show a simulation of the rail, the speed, how many cars, all that, correct? I mean, that's basically what this is doing.
That's correct. And
But for the public knowledge, this is for the public where we can present it to Bell Chase, Walker Road people, Peters Road, Senator Connick, all the stakeholders in this, where we can show what is actually going on.
Right. Well, I was amazed. I thought a train be the caboose, the engine, and maybe 5 or 6 cars. That thing was pulling 200 cars.
Grain train's 100 cars.
Grain and stuff, I guess.
Yes, sir. All right. Any other comments from the audience? Administration. Table. Ms. McCarty.
I understand the reason that we're doing this, because we had our conversation the other day, and I'll just summarize that, is to be able to not, well, first what I'm going to say about it is the container terminal, the phrase container terminal. So I'm concerned about that phrase, but I understand because of our previous conversation that we're not looking at just a container terminal. It could be instead coal or grain or something like that that we want to bring out. I just don't like that we keep using container terminal. I wish that were a different phrase here. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Commissioner McCarty, and I really appreciated the long conversation that you and I had last night. I thought it was a very good conversation, and you will start to see us replace container terminal with marine terminal, because part of what we're modeling, you know, with this velocity model is it's not just containers. I mean, it is going to be grain. It is going to be dry bulk. You know, we have our partner with Balsu On-Site Concrete. They are very interested in moving cementitious products by rail. So we are modeling all of that, and we're keeping, you know, all of our options open for the marine terminal that we're planning to build. So thank you for that conversation yesterday.
Mr. Jers.
And yes, cementitious. First time I heard that word, kind of threw me off. That's the educated people Patty was talking about.
I've handled a lot of cement products in my days, and that is a term that is used.
Come on, let's.
I know I'm probably just asking a question that we probably did, but all of these engineering contracts, they do go out for bid, don't they?
So for this particular one, so we have the bid that we did with Infinity and Lanier Engineering. So this is a task order, so it did go out to bid,
That was it.
a public bid, that is correct. And Infinity Engineering is running prime, and 360 Rail is running sub, and they're the experts at rail modeling. And what I'd like to do is I'll send an email with a link to their website so that you could see some of the rail modeling that they've done around the United States.
Machines are open. Passes 9-0. Next item, please.
D, an ordinance authorizing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to issue task order 18 to Lanier and Associates for engineering, survey, and project management services associated with developing a cost estimate for Phase 1 of the container terminal project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Schultz.
I offer, ask for a second. Second by Commissioner Konovich. Mr.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead and add
Yeah,
what
I-
we talked about today.
I'd just like to add a little flavor. I mean, you will start to hear me refer to Piano Keys 2 as our marine terminal project. And what we're doing with this cost estimate is we're refreshing the cost estimate that was in place before for the previous container terminal project. We're refreshing it so that we clearly understand what a project of this magnitude will cost. We anticipate that there's going to be probably 20 to 30% cost increase from the last 2022 cost estimate. But it is important for the port to get out in front of this cost estimate because it is going to be tied to the Corps of Engineers 404 and 408 permits. What we do with this, if it's reimbursable through the lease agreements or not, that is something that we will be able to talk about and negotiate. And I did send a separate email to all of the commissioners regarding that today. But again, we just want to make sure that the port fully understands what it is going to cost for us to develop the port's asset. And our approach is to create a private partnership where the development of that asset is actually funded by that private partner, just as we're doing with Venture Global today. Most of the marine projects of the magnitude that we're talking about, probably somewhere around 95% are funded with, private dollars, and that is going to be our approach. So I appreciate your support on helping us to get through this step.
All right. Any comments from the audience? Administration is talk. Mr. Jurisich.
Yeah, just once again, I mean, what I look at a lot with all of this stuff is we just keep on throwing money out there, throwing money out there, throwing money out there. And I'm gonna tell you, I think you had something out there about maybe getting some reimbursement and stuff like that. It seems like every time we come, we just throwing money everywhere, and we're not taking that money in because we have absolutely nothing other than, Venture Global and a promise. So I'm good with it, but I just want to say, there's going to come a time we gotta start getting some action for what we're doing. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Miss Reverend Edwards.
Yeah, Mitch, you beat me to the part. That was one of my concerns. Charles, is the amount of money we spending and for what we getting in return. So I 100%, but Mitch, I had to say it, but he just beat me to it. So I concur with that 100%. Huh?
You're going to love this one. I was going to say the same thing, but I agree. We need results and soon at this point on this container terminal. After, without going into details, the meeting and everything, we need results and soon. I'm just going to leave it at that.
And if I may,
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, we really need to looking at where we at, how much money we spending on all these studies and all the different things and what we got in return. So at one point, do we stop it and just focus on something where we know we getting something out of it? Then every time we're looking over and over, and that's really my main concern.
Yep, I agree.
I think the concerns are valid, and I hear you loud and clear. And the port is taking this very seriously. Some of these projects take a little time to develop. We are still in the process of buying land, and part of the process really is getting a site shovel ready. It's the same thing with the velocity model. It really is about making sure that what we're planning with that engineering that we can safely do, and we can tell the public we can safely do it, just as we could tell our local business partners that we can safely do it. So this is, it is pre-planning, and I realize that there's some frustration that it's not moving quickly. And I assure you, it is a very top priority for me. And I will make sure that I push this as quick as I possibly can.
Quickly but correctly. Let's make sure we're going to sign contracts and do everything correctly. Machines are open. Passes 9-0. Next item, please.
E, an ordinance to amend the 2025 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget for the reallocation of positions within the ferry and rescue boat departments and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Schultz.
I offer, ask for a second. Second by Commissioner LaFrance, and I just want to say, about time. I know this was not the fault of administration, but issues with civil service, but they passed it last week,
Last
correct?
week, that's correct.
And so we are finally able to fix this payroll issue with our ferry department. So, any comments from the audience? Administration, Mr. Konovich.
That salary for rescue boat division, that's for the ferry or the rescue boat?
Well, if I may, it's both divisions, several different positions within both the rescue boats and the ferry positions that total up to these salaries. This
Because
is
it's
not
not one
individual.
position, because I was gonna tell you,
No.
I'm gonna quit here and put my.
No, it's all the positions. And this is just for the rest of the year too.
Right, this is for the rest of the year, and you know, I mean, talent acquisition has been a real challenge for us because there's so much competition, new competition just in our port district with new tugboats, new crew boats because of the expansion of Venture Global. And so, and they're paying a higher salary, so we need to continue to attract, talented, marine personnel, but then more importantly, retain them as well. So we really publicly thank civil service for, it was a long road, but we worked through it, and this is going to be a tremendous help for the port.
That's a couple positions, not just one, because like I said, I was giving you my resume before I left, but I'm good with it.
You gotta wait 2 years, sir.
I could resign right now. But I'm retiring, so.
Croatia's calling, right? Machines are open. Passes 9-0. Next item, please.
F, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of $35 million of revenue bond series 2025 of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Commissioner Schultz, this has changes.
Okay, in section 2, the authorization of bonds maturities, the third paragraph, first line, the per annum amount is 5.56%.
Thank you. I offer with the changes. Ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gui. Any comments from the audience? No comment on 35 million? 35 million. All right, any comments from the administration?
So we do have Ms. Hawthorne here from Foley Udell, if there are any questions of Foley Udell regarding the revenue bond.
All right. Ms. McCarty.
Okay, I concur with Mr. Jurasich that a lot of changes came through even today, and I was able to spend some time to read this. But I do have some concerns, and from our conversation yesterday, I understand that this has a time-sensitive nature on it. But I would ask, and I'm going to explain why, that the commissioners consider having a special meeting next week to pass this, but with a ordinance that specifies how the funds can be spent, because this does not. It says what they're going to be spent on, and any of us, as I've explained to Mr. Schultz, any of us could disappear tomorrow, and this is for 10 years. So I would like to put an ordinance together that would specify more details, like it just, in general, it says capital improvements for port facilities. We don't know what. And I know that we have new issues that are coming down the pike. And what's to say that we're not going to spend some of that money on the new issues and then the current issues are going to run out of funding? So I've asked Mr. Garrett to put together an ordinance, and Mr. Garrett, would you like to say what okay, so I'll go over some of the things that I've asked.
I guess the question would be, so, and I just got this a little moment ago, but,
Yeah.
and I think I know the answer, but just to confirm, the funds from this revenue bond issue, they've not yet been appropriated.
No.
No.
Okay. Because if they've not been appropriated, then that's what prevents the expenditure. This just allows for the sale of the bonds. But you can't spend any money until it's appropriated. So before they could spend any of those dollars, they would have to bring in an ordinance amending the 5-year capital improvements budget, and then y'all would vote on that ordinance, and it would specifically, for example, the one that I think that y'all introduced or acting on, having to do with the Belle Chase Ferry. You needed to change how much money was appropriated for that Belle Chase repair, so they brought an ordinance amending that fund, that project, and with all the requisite numbers, so that your budget shows the appropriation of that money. So this resolution doesn't authorize the expenditure of any money. It just authorizes you essentially to sell the bonds and receive the money. In order to expend the money, there's already going to have to be a budget now, and that was the thing I had sent back. I mean, you could introduce a budget ordinance tonight, but I don't know what funds the money would be spent through. But it already has to do that. In other words, they're a month away from being able to spend any dollar, because they would have to you'd have to have a budget ordinance introduced specifically citing what fund that money is going into, and then what expenditure was coming out. Right?
Yes, that is correct. And if I could add to that, I mean, the water booster station, for example, I mean, this year, we know that we're about $3 million under the threshold that we have approved through DOTD. By the end of the year, we're going to be spending over that. So essentially, part of that is to cover the cash payments for the work for the water booster station. So that ordinance, we will prepare an ordinance when we're ready to draw the money down and bring that in front of the commission specifically for the water booster station. The same thing for the repair, the building, not to exceed the 35 million, but we will not spend one penny without
Correct.
an approval and majority vote of the Port Commission.
So, Ms. McCarty, based on what you just asked me, you're concerned about how much for each project, correct? The 3 projects, it sounds like.
And this is for 10 years.
Correct. Okay, so here's my question, where we can move forward. But since, in order to spend any money, we're a month out. They have to introduce at the next meeting, whatever. How about, what? Correct. But what I'm asking is, because this goes into a separate bank account, you can always introduce an ordinance at the next meeting that says no more than X amount shall be taken from the bond revenue for project X, no more whatever. So we can still vote on this, and by the time they can do anything with the money, your ordinance will be in place in a month out.
True.
Would that,
That would make me happy, but I don't know that people are going to agree to that. And that's why I wanted to know that people are going to
Well-
agree to that before I say I'm going to put all this money into
I mean, I can't talk about future votes and how, but I'm just saying that might solve your problem.
And if I could, Mr. Schultz, but I think everybody needs to go in understanding that if y'all adopt an ordinance saying we're only going to use no more than X amount of that 35 million for this purpose, and then subsequently the council adopts an ordinance to appropriate more than that amount of money for that subsequent ordinance is the latest expression of legislative will. Which is why I'm saying, I mean, essentially the way to the appropriation, the budget is how you restrict how the money gets used. Now, you could appropriate the money into a very broad budget line item, and then the poor staff could spend it on anything that fell into that
I don't
budget
wanna
line
do
item.
that.
But if you didn't want it, if you only wanted to appropriate those monies for very specific expenditures, then that's how that budget ordinance would read, appropriating that money.
And really quick, my understanding the region's document, and maybe you can clarify that it can only be spent on these three projects. So there's nothing, even if all the money is spent on one of the three projects, it's still going to the original intent that we voted on back in January, I think. So I'm just
Okay.
putting that out there, but
So
you
let's
continue,
say
Ms.
we
McCarty.
spend 70% on one project when we only budgeted to spend 30%. Then that means we have a limited amount for the other two projects, and we might want to come out and get more money. I'm trying to say, let's limit our spending to a certain timeline.
And that's what I'm saying, and correct me if I'm wrong. There is, none of this 35 million has been appropriated.
Correct.
Okay, so in other words, it's impossible to spend 70% of the money right now. You could,
Unless-
I'm saying in the future, because we could disappear. The people in the future don't know what our intentions were unless we put it down.
But the problem is then you're handicapping, what? But the problem is then you're handicapping future councils. How would you feel if somebody handicapped you in your decision-making from 5 years ago?
but you could, I mean, you could adopt, for example, y'all could adopt a budget appropriation, and you could appropriate X amount of dollars to each of the projects. But understanding that a budget ordinance always has the ability of being revised by a subsequent council.
Okay.
And then if I could add to it, for each one of these projects, we have a very specific dollar amount for each one of these projects equaling 35 million. But Ms. Hawthorne, if we could just have you give us your thoughts.
Yeah, so again, we always have flexibility in the documents, and we don't usually put dollar amounts, and we try to be as flexible as possible to give y'all, though, the ability to make the decisions about what you want to spend and how you're going to spend it and when you're going to spend it. So we don't want the bank that is buying these bonds to feel like they have to monitor what you're doing. So that's really why we have very broad authority. This is very consistent also with what we did at the State Bond Commission. But again, from all discussions with respect to the bank, we've always told them it was for land acquisition, the water booster system, and the administrative building.
Thank you. Ms. McCarty, you got any other comments? Or do you yield?
I yield. I have conflict, but I yield.
Machines are open. Passes 8-1 with a no vote from Ms. McCarty.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add, what I will send tonight is a recap, resend what we put out there on the budget dollar amounts for all three of these projects, just so to put that at the top of everybody's email so you can see. And the ordinance moving forward will be reflective of that budget set for that project.
And to be clear, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. We need results. Some of this is going to be as a result of this bond money with land purchases and stuff. So it's on us to enforce those results. So I'll yield. Next item, please.
G, an ordinance authorizing Charles Tillotson, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to purchase land and property more fully described in Exhibit A, which is owned by Celeste D. Ankar and the succession of Larry Thomas Ankar, Commissioner LaFrance. And this has changes.
Fill in blank.
Okay, on line 16, there's the incorrect name. We're removing Fleming Martin and inserting Ankar. And on line 17, we're inserting the amount of $372,000.
Ms. LaFrance?
I'm sorry, and also on line 33, the same amount.
Thank you. Ms. LaFrance? 372.
Yeah.
Second. Offered by Ms. LaFrance, second by myself. Any comments from the audience? Yes, sir.
when y'all first put the charts up there, I think y'all say we only own like 27% of the land, so we got a long way to go to have all the land that we want, and for
So,
that we're gonna need. But also, are we sure we're gonna be able to buy this land from the?
Yes, they have agreed, and this is actually Piano Keys 1.
it's piano.
So this is actually not even with that chart.
All right, as long as we could be able to buy it, that's all that counts.
So, yes, sir. They have agreed. Any other comments from the audience? Administration, table, machines are open. Passes 9-0. Next item, please.
H, an ordinance authorizing Charles Tillotson, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to purchase land and property more fully described in Exhibit A owned by James and Sheila McGuire with respect to lots 35 and 36. Commissioner LaFrance, this has changes.
Go ahead.
On lines 15, we're removing Fleming, Martin, and entering McGuire. And the amount of money, the price for the lots are $1,425,600. And the same amount, $1,425,600 will be on line 32.
That's correct, Mr. Tilson?
That's correct.
Okay, just making sure because of everything. Mr. LaFrance? Second by myself. Offered by Mr. LaFrance, second by myself. Any comments from the audience? Administration, table. Machines are open. Passes 9-0. So, next item, please.
I, an ordinance to award and fund the 5-year capital improvement plan for MV Belchase 2 Dry Dock Project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Schultz.
I offer, ask for a second. Second by Commissioner Conovich. Any comments from the audience? Administration, table. Machines are open. Ms. McCarty. Passes 9-0. Next item, please.
7, new business. 7A, introduction of resolutions where suspension is being sought. 7A1, a resolution authorizing and directing the executive director to authorize legal counsel to seek a writ to the Louisiana Supreme Court to review the ruling by the Court of Appeals in the matter of PPHTD versus Tuan Nguyen, docket number 2024 CA 0614, and to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Schultz.
I offer for suspension. Ask for second. Second by Ms. McCarty. Any comments from the audience? Administration, table. Machines are open for suspension. Passes 9-0.
A resolution authorizing and directing the executive director to authorize legal counsel to seek a writ to the Louisiana Supreme Court to review the ruling by the Court of Appeals in the matter of PPHTD versus Tuan Nguyen, docket number 2024 CA 0614, and to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Schultz.
I offer, ask for a second. Second by Ms. McCarty. Any comments from the audience? Administration, table. Machines are open. Passes 8-0 with one abstention from Commissioner LaFrance. Next item, please.
8, approval of the minutes from the June 12th, 2025. regular-
Offered by Mr. Newsome, second by Mr. Conovich. Comments from the audience? Administration, table, machines are open. Passes 9-0.
Adjournment.
Motion by Mr. Conovich, second by Mr. Newsome. Any comments? Good to go. Machines are open. Passes 8-1 with a no vote from Mr. Edwards. How did I know that was going to be? We have adjournment at 5:22 PM.